good evening, and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the history and geography of Andorra. Andorra is a very tiny country in Western Europe. So after I go over its geography and history, we will flip through this book. But since it is a tiny country, we're going to put the book to the side and zoom in a bit closer and take a better look at Andorra. There we go. So, Andorra, as you can see, is bordered by France up here in the north and east, and Spain in the south and the west. This region of Spain is known as Catalonia, which is very important because people in Catalonia speak Catalan, and so do the people of Andorra. It's a very different language. I mean, I live in a place where Mexican Spanish is spoken, and Spain Spanish is so much different from Mexican Spanish, and Catalan is so much different from Spain Spanish. So, apologies if I mispronounce anything. It is very hard to find correct pronunciations in Catalan online. I have been trying. Believe me. The biggest geographic feature in Andorra are the Pyrenees Mountains. The Pyrenees are the natural border between France and Spain, and it slices right through Andorra. There's lots and lots of many big peaks in Andorra. The largest one is right here. It is Peak de Coma Pedrosa, but there's many others that come close. It's a very mountainy place, lots of snow and skiing and all those wonderful things that you associate with wintry Western Europe. There is a lot of rivers throughout Andorra. The main river system is the Valira. We have this half of the Valira River and this half of the Valira River. They come together right here in the capital of Andorra, Andorra la Vella. Then it flows out into Spain and out to the Mediterranean. These rivers and all of their little tributaries create lots of valleys throughout these mountains, and lots of towns you can see cluster around in these valleys. Lots of farming, and actually mining was a big thing in Andorra back in the day, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. That's pretty much it for geography. It's a very tiny country. Not much else to it other than that. But not that that's a bad thing, because the mountains here are very beautiful, as you'll see when we flip through the book. So the first peoples who lived in Andorra were nomadic peoples, venturing through the Pyrenees, struggling to survive, setting up camps in the area. This would be in about 9500 BCE. Permanent settlements would have began by 6640 BCE. And like I said, they were very much into smithing and farming. The Roman historian Polybius was the first to mention this place on paper. He wrote an account of the Punic Wars and detailed Hannibal's trip across Western Europe over the Pyrenees and the Alps. And he mentioned a people here called the Androcines, who attempted to stop Hannibal, but Hannibal's army was much bigger and stronger at that point. So, very noble fight there for these peoples. This area came under Roman jurisdiction by about the 2nd century BCE until the 5th century CE, when the Western Roman Empire collapsed and they were left on their own. The Visigoths were the peoples who came in and took over the area, spreading Christianity. And eventually this area would come under the Diocese of Urgell, which is not far from the border here, in what's now Catalonia in Spain. Muslim armies began to invade Spain in the 800s, the Moorish peoples coming up trying to conquer new territory. Allegedly, this is all historical rumors, but allegedly, King Charlemagne, over in what's now France in the Frankish Empire, sent 5,000 soldiers to what's now Andorra to protect the area from the Islamic invaders. And they were successful. And because of that, the rulers of France were very grateful for stopping the invasion where they did, and made them an official place, an official charter. Was made in 1805, distinguishing Andorra as its own municipality, its own country, its own thing. There are lots of other places around this area where allegedly the same thing happened, but those little countries have not survived until today, which is why Andorra is the one lonely little blip on the map in this part of the world. All the others have been absorbed either into France or Spain. So why wasn't Andorra absorbed into France or Spain? In the 13th century, the rulers of Foix, which is just north of here in France, it's still there today, claimed the rightful rulership over this area, which they did actually have a claim to that, since the Catalan family in Urgell, who controlled the area, the bishopric, the diocese, whatever you want to call it, had a marriage link to the rulers of Foix. So technically they did have a say in controlling the area. Disagreements broke out. It could have turned into a full-on war, but they actually sat down and negotiated and decided that Andorra was going to be co-ruled by the Bishop of Urgell, and the rulers of Foix. So it would be French and Spanish at the same time. This would eventually evolve later to becoming the co-princes of Andorra. And even to this day, the Bishop of Urgell in Spain and the ruler of France are both co-princes. A general council was formed in 1419 to handle more of the political day-to-day inside of here that isn't in control of the co-princes, who are doing their own thing in their own regions. So 1619 was the time when the French king became co-prince, and that's because the rulers of Foix would slowly build up in reputation and in titles, and the rightful ruler of Foix would wind up becoming King of France. And ever since then, whoever is in charge of France is the co-prince of Andorra. So yes, the current president of France, whenever you're watching this, I don't want to say any names in case you're watching this 10 years after I posted. The current president of France is the co-prince, or princess, I guess that could happen, of Andorra. I think that's really interesting, how you get elected to a position and you're also made a prince. Anyway, that's just how things have always been done in Andorra since long ago. There was a brief blip in history during the French Revolution when there was no prince coming from France. So it was just ruled by the Bishop of Urgell until Napoleon in 1809, I think it was, reinstated himself as one of the co-princes, and it's stayed that way ever since. Now, that's not to say that life has been all peaceful and nice in Andorra. People have really made their thoughts known in terms of politics. Sorry about the dog outside. He's a general in the Twilight Bark, so it's very important that this dog barks all night long as much as possible. It's his duty. Anyway, that out of the way. In 1881, there was a conflict over a ruling where the co-princes decided that they were outlawing casinos. Big movement up against that. It was nearly like an overthrow of the country. People were that passionate about their casinos. There was another big one in 1933 with a movement for universal suffrage and for workers' rights, among other things, but people would essentially rise up, speak their mind, and the co-princes would listen and agree and capitulate. A very strange thing happened in 1934, where this guy from Russia decided that he was the rightful king of Andorra, and he came to Catalonia and declared war on the Bishop of Urgell, and he was eventually arrested. Just a weird moment in its history. Okay. Andorra was neutral through both of the world wars, and actually in the 1930s was when Andorra would start to revolutionize. They established their banking sector and became a tax haven. They practiced a lot of modern industrialization, which is still prevalent today. This era is known as the Andorran Dream because it came out of obscurity from this little quaint mountain area into a full country as we know it today. They joined the UN in 1993 after signing a new constitution, and as of 2006 they use the euro as their currency, even though they're not part of the European Union. And that's about it for the history of Andorra. It's a quaint, very beautiful little place. Let me show you the book. Alright, let's flip through the book and I'll show you some cool pictures of Andorra. So here's what I mean by all the valleys, the mountains. It's all very picturesque and beautiful. That must be Andorra la Vella there in the valley. And we've got a big, big ski resort here. I think it's one of the largest in the world, if I remember correctly. The UN flag there. Here's a dish called batifara, which looks very delicious. This is one of the many glacial lakes in Andorra. They're pretty tiny, so tiny that they're not on my big map of Andorra, but there's a lot of them. More skiing. And with skiing and mountains comes avalanches, which Andorra is really trying to put a stop to before they happen. This is the largest of the glacial lakes, Lake Juclar. I think J in Catalan is a J sound, I believe. Again, I've been trying to find correct Catalan pronunciations. If you know, please let me know in the comments. This is an endangered butterfly, the Apollo butterfly. What's interesting, it talks about it later too, is that the river otter is endangered in Andorra. A narcissus, very beautiful. And another one of the many gorgeous lakes. Isn't that lovely? This can be a painting, right? So beautiful. Let's see, a beautiful historic church there. There's Charlemagne. He looks very angry there, doesn't he? And a statue here outside a church. And here's Andorra's flag. Let's read about it. It's a very interesting one. Andorra's distinctive flag with blue, yellow, and red stripes, in addition to a center coat of arms, was born from an agreement in 1278. Through this accord, the Bishop of Urgell, now in Spain, and the Count of Foix, now in France, were given joint rulership over the small nation. Thus, the coat of arms in the center of the flag came to include symbols from both of their home countries. These include the mitre and crosier that represent the bishop, right here, and the 3 red bars on a yellow background that were the French count's coat of arms. The yellow shield with 4 red bars represents Catalonia, Spain. And I believe this was another nearby region of France. One I think that does not exist anymore, since this was in 1278, you know. Louis XIV, one of the co-princes of Andorra, and the most infamous king of France. Well, probably the most famous. I think infamous would be Louis XVI, right? Let's see, this is an old church here as well. Here's the French flag, so you can see that they took the blue and red from France's flag. Let's see, here's the government building, Comú d'Andorra. And their Parliament House, it looks like a luxury hotel. And the EU flag, even though Andorra is not part of the EU, but they use the euro. This is the current president of France, Emmanuel Macron, who is co-prince of Andorra. Another, this is where the General Council meets in Andorra la Vella. Again, it looks like part of a ski resort. And, you know, Andorra was very impacted by COVID-19, just like everywhere else in the world. Like, got their own section there about it. A sheepy. How cute. And more skiing. It says Andorra was chosen to host the 2023 Alpine Ski World Cup Finals. Oh, that hasn't happened yet in my timeline. Hopefully it went well. And a very lucky hiker enjoying this gorgeous scenery. And here's one of the many, many banks you can find in Andorra. Credit Andorra. She's definitely enjoying the beautiful hikes. And here's a perfumery in Andorra. See, they're doing some road work there. Like I said, modernizing the country is still an ongoing thing. And this is a field of tobacco, one of the big cash crops in Andorra. How beautiful. A bearded vulture. It's a gorgeous bird. So here is Andorra la Vella. Very prominent building right here. One of those that, like, if you see that, you know, oh, that's Andorra la Vella for sure. There's a river otter, like I said, endangered in the country, which is sad because they're so sweet. Oh, speaking of sweet, what a beautiful pup. Let's see, this is another church. Very, very old, says from the 9th century CE. And a busy day in Andorra la Vella. And reading the Quran here, since there are Muslims there as well. It's not just Catholics. Another bustling day in Andorra la Vella. Look at that traffic, my goodness. What a nightmare. And the gorgeous countryside. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, sorry, wiggling the camera there. Let's see, another packed day in Andorra la Vella. It is so crowded here. You can hardly walk from all the people. It is so busy today. I'm not being ironic. This is very busy in Andorra la Vella. Oh, this is the sweet bridge, the Pont de Paris Bridge. And this was the Parliament building until 2011. It was an old, let me see. It was like an old, like, family manor. Let's see, another more modern looking church. Very pretty frescoes on the outside there. And a very, very old church. An old graveyard in it too. And this was the church that we saw like toward the beginning of the book. St. Stephen's Church in Andorra la Vella. Oh boy, so this is a remake, I think, of a Virgin of Mary's shell. A very sacred statue that was found and moved around on its own. Wherever they put it, it would move itself back. Very interesting. A little road sign there telling you you're in the center of Andorra la Vella. And another road sign telling you how far away you are from, let's see, these places. I don't know where those are. And priority parking, I assume. Pedestrian crossing. Oh, pedestrian crossing, I suppose. And Catalan is so different from, like, any language that I'm familiar with, even though they're so closely related to languages that I'm familiar with. This is a school here. That's really beautiful. Also looks like a ski lodge. There's a bunch of Catalan words versus Spanish words and French words. We're not going to get into it. Oh, how neat. Some modern art here. It's really cool. Beautiful, beautiful old bridge here over the Valera River. And another old church. It looks like it's not as old as the others, but definitely old nonetheless. And a beautiful statue depicting some traditional dance. There we go. That big building I told you about. The Chaldea Spa Center. It's a pretty magnificent building in terms of quaint little Andorra, right? It would be impressive anywhere in the world. Sorry, I'm just jealous. Some amazing camping out here. And some racing. See, do they have a Formula One track or something? It seems that they have some kind of prominent race, don't they? That's very exciting. Some actual traditional dancing. This is St. John's Day. And, oh boy, the Andorra's shopping festival. There's like a street performer on a float of some kind. It looks fun. That doesn't look too bad of a little soup, doesn't it? Like a little vegetable soup. Escudella, I think it's called. Some big moo-moos out in the valley here. How lovely. And a dish of rabbit. Probably been eaten there for ages. This person has just grabbed a trout out of the water, looks like. And oh my, this is an Isard. It's looking at you very curiously. And this looks like pizza, but it's pizza. It's bread, tomato sauce, and sausage. That's a pizza. And snails, and there is that French influence, right? Let's see, some more soupy dishes here. There's a map of Andorra. You can see just how mountainous it is, and that's where Andorra is located in Europe. Right there between, that's a really terrible looking map, because it's more like right there. Okay. That's a really weird map of Spain, but you get the idea. So anyway, that is it for Andorra. I know it's another short one, but I've been doing a lot of microstates lately. I promise the next couple of countries coming up will be much, much longer. I promise you. So don't worry. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a very good